Hello and welcome again to Mental Health Moments. We're happy to have you along with us. And once again, the subject that we're going after tonight is one that we are all familiar with, something that we all deal with from time to time. Everyone deals with it much differently. Some deal with it more than others do, but it does have an effect on all of us. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a beneficial opportunity for all of us tonight. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back. As this video is being produced, we are just finishing up with our Thanksgiving celebrations, and we hope that every one of you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, that you enjoyed your time with your families. And as we now lean forward into the month of December, we realize that this month is going to be filled with a lot of gatherings and festivities and family celebrations. But as we all know, it doesn't always mean the same thing to everyone. One of the songs that we sing is that it is a most wonderful time of the year. But for a lot of people, we have to recognize that it is not. And I don't want to diminish that, but it's very important that we recognize that a lot of people struggle during this time of the year. So tonight, I want to touch base with you about something that we are all familiar with: disappointment. Disappointment. Disappointment is the unhappiness or discouragement that results when your hopes or expectations have not been satisfied, or when someone or something is not as good as you had hoped or expected it was going to be. A simple definition of disappointment is when someone or something has failed to meet your expectations or your wishes. I thought it was interesting to look at the different meanings of words that are the same, synonyms. Disappointment also means defeat or failure or discouragement, being down, having a downfall, a setback, a slip, a misfortune. And all of those are all bad. And the truth is, take a deep breath, we all deal with it from time to time. Disappointment is that what happens when you get your hopes set on something, and then whatever it is that you had your hopes set on doesn't happen, or doesn't happen like you was going to happen. That feeling that you feel is real. It's disappointment. It is characterized in many different ways, but for most of us, what we feel when we feel disappointed is that we feel a sense of deep down inside sadness or loss, a little bit of grief. Sometimes we deal with a lot of anger or frustration. I think you can recognize that. Disappointment is an unavoidable part of life. There is literally no way that you are going to make it through the rest of your life. You might not even make it through the rest of this day without feeling some kind of disappointment. It's interesting to me that Charles Stanley said disappointment is an inevitable part of life, but to become discouraged is the choice that I make. So it's going to happen, but then you have to make the choice to whether or not you're going to stay disappointed or not. Disappointment results from thoughts or expectations that don't line up with what is going on in reality. Many times I find in my counseling practice, when I talk to people that are disappointed, it's because they have unrealistic expectations. You start a new business, and everyone knows that when you start a new business, it's going to be a struggle, but some people think that I'm just going to start a business and I'm going to make money and I'm going to get rich and it's going to be easy and I'm going to take 3 vacations a year and it's going to be, and they end up disappointed. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but what is much more likely is that somewhere along the way you are definitely going to struggle with making ends meet and meeting payroll and keeping up with all your expenses. We know that. One of the key points that I wanted to make is to help you recognize that at some point you will be disappointed, but you don't have to stay that way. I'll let you take that in. You will be disappointed, but you don't have to stay that way, because if you do, this is important to recognize too. Psychologically and medically, we understand that people who are disappointed are at greater risk of physical and emotional difficulties in their lives, either one or both, physical or emotional difficulties. People who suffer from complete disappointment and continuous disappointment, we recognize that many times it affects them physically, it affects them mentally, it affects them emotionally. So that's why we're here. So what do? I'm going to give you 3 little things, and then we're going to let you think about it. Number 1, become more realistic and intentional in your expectations. That might be a hard pill for some people to swallow. Become more realistic in your intentional in your expectations. I'm not trying to be a downer, but it is unrealistic to expect that every day of your life is going to be walking on sunshine and everything's going to be great. So sometimes you have to check to see if your expectations are fair and reasonable. And if they're not, then you might have to adjust your expectations along the way to keep you from dealing with continuous disappointment. Number 2, take control of your thoughts and your thinking. One of my favorite types of therapy is cognitive behavioral therapy. One of the basic principles of cognitive behavioral therapy is this: change your thinking, change your life. Change your thinking, change your life. You may not have any influence or control over the thoughts and actions of others, but you absolutely do control your own thoughts and thinking and interactions. So, when you become disappointed, don't stay there. Stop dwelling on your disappointments. Thinking does not change a negative situation, but it will change how you feel. When you catch yourself thinking negative thoughts, one right after another, then somewhere along the way you need to redirect those thoughts and focus them in positive solutions. So number 2 is take control of your thoughts and thinkings. Now, again, someone out there might be saying, boy, that's easier said than done. Trust me, I know. But it's definitely worth the effort. And lastly, number 3, since disappointment is often connected to unrealistic or unmet expectations, we all need to pay more attention to how we communicate. That's very important. There's a song out these days that says, say what you mean to say. So as we are communicating what our expectations are, we need to be very clear about those things so that we don't become disappointed or someone else doesn't become disappointed. You have to learn what it means to speak up and be clear. Be very clear. Disappointments can often be reduced or eliminated by better communication. So listen better. Listen to what other people are saying, what they're really saying, and when necessary, restate what you hear. I find that's one of the most helpful tools in counseling. Is when someone says something, instead of just assuming that you understand what they meant when they said that, you take a moment and say, well, now, what I think I hear you saying is this. Disappointment. What are your thoughts? And is this a valid point? Do you have any suggestions? Have you dealt with disappointment in your life? And when you have, what have you done? Maybe in the comments, if you feel led to share that, just write it down. Somebody might be able to read the comments and hear something from that. On this topic, I found a great many resources that we'll be sharing along the way this week. I'll be dropping some links during the week, so check back in and make sure that you're keeping up to date on everything, and let us know in the comments what other topics you feel like might need to be covered. Thanksgiving was wonderful. The end of the year is filled with all kinds of events and festivities, and we want to make sure that we position you to enjoy them as much as you can and not become disappointed. If you have any thoughts or comments, put them in the suggestions down there. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please do. And if you think this is something that someone else could benefit from, either share it or tag them in it. Let them know that it's here. We hope our time together has been helpful. We look forward to seeing you next time right here on Mental Health Moments.